Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming today's guests of honor. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, online viewers worldwide, welcome to the 2026 Tang Prize Laureate announcements. From June 15th to the 18th, the Tang Prize Foundation announces the laureates of the 2026 Tang Prize in Sustainable Development, Biopharmaceutical Science, Sinology, and Rule of Law. In today's press conference, the 2026 Tang Prize laureate in Rule of Law will be unveiled. To begin with, I'd like to introduce the guests of honor who are here with us today. First of all, Professor Ye Junrong, Chair of the Selection Committee for Rule of Law. Professor Zhang Wenzhen, Distinguished Professor of the College of Law, National Taiwan University. Professor Chen Zhenchuan, CEO of the Tang Prize Foundation. And now I'd like to invite Professor Chen Zhenchuan, CEO of the Tang Prize Foundation, to give us the opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Chen.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Tang Prize Foundation, I would like to warmly welcome you to the announcement of the 2026 Tang Prize Laureate in Rule of Law. Founded upon the belief that all people are born equal, the rule of law holds that everyone, including individuals, states, and international organizations, is subject to the law. The Tang Prize advocates a legal order that upholds both the dual process and the sustainable justice, striving for peace, human rights, and sustainable development, with the ultimate goal of promoting the common well-being of humanity and nature, particularly in a world facing escalating climate crisis, rapid advances in AI, and intensifying geopolitical conflicts. Issues such as environmental law, AI regulation, international law, and the protection of human rights have become central challenge of global governance. The Tang Prize Foundation is honored to establish a globally respected award in its field to recognize individuals or institutions whose innovative contributions to the theory or practice of the rule of law have significantly advanced its realizations. Through this award, we also hope to inspire people around the world to work together toward a better future for all. I would also like to express our sincere gratitude to Professor Ye Junrong, Chair of the Selection Committee, and to all members of International Selection Committee for their dedication, fairness, and professionalism. My thanks also go to Professor Zhang Wenzhen and Dr. Li Peilong for joining us today. Announcement. Finally, congratulations to the Tang Prize laureate who will soon be announced. I wish all of you good health, peace, and happiness. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chen, for your opening remarks. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite Chair of the Selection Committee for Rule of Law, Professor Emeritus Ye Junrong, to announce the 2026 Tang Prize Laureate in Rule of Law.
Distinguished guests, members of the media, I'm honored to announce that the recipient of the 2026 Tang Prize in Rule of Law is Professor Bruce Ackerman. For his intellectual leadership in developing new conceptions of constitutional making, judicial review, and structures needed for democratic constitutional governance, offering conceptual and practical approaches to defend rule of law amid crises facing modern republics. His competitive engagements and passionate commitment to understanding constitutional legitimacy and popular sovereignty exercised across generations have inspired constitutional lawyers around the world in their pursuit of social justice and the rule of law. Please allow me to briefly introduce Professor Ackerman to you. Professor Bruce Ackerman served as Sterling Professor of Law and Political Science at Yale University in the United States. Early in his legal career, he served as a law clerk to Judge Henry J. Friendly of the United States Court of Appeals, and subsequently to Justice John Marshall Harlan II of the United States Supreme Court. He later devoted himself to academia, teaching at several top-tier American universities, and dedicated decades of service to legal research and education, particularly at Yale Law School. Professor Ackerman's scholarship is renowned for integrating perspectives from diverse disciplines. Through his exploration of foundations, evolutions, and dynamics of constitutional democracy, alongside the pressing rule of law crisis confronting contemporary societies, Professor Ackerman has advanced numerous pioneer conceptual and practical approaches that continue to inspire generations of academic and practitioners around the world. Congratulations, Bruce. In order to introduce Professor Ackerman's contributions further, we are delighted to welcome Professor Wen-Chen Chang, Distinguished Professor at National Taiwan University College of Law. Professor Chang specialized in the development of and the dynamics of democratic constitutionalism. With her profound understanding of Professor Ackerman's scholarly work, she is widely recognized in Taiwan as the scholar most familiar with his intellectual contributions. Professor Chang, we are expecting your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Ye, for unveiling this year's Tang Prize Laureate in Rule of Law. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Distinguished Professor Zhang Wenzhen of the College of Law, National Taiwan University, to introduce the Tang Prize Laureate in Rule of Law.
Thank you, Chair Professor Junrong Ye, and thank you, our CEO of the foundation, Dr. Chen. Allow me to introduce our laureate for this year, Professor Bruce Ackerman, Sterling Professor of Law and Political Science at Yale University. He is also a fellow of American Academy of Arts and Science and a member of the American Law Institute. Professor Bruce Ackerman has received numerous awards, but I'm sure that Tang Prize is much more significant for his career of his lifetime. Now, the most significant contributions of Professor Bruce Ackerman. Professor Bruce Ackerman is awarded with his groundbreaking theory of higher lawmaking and dualist democracy. His theory distinguishes two models of politics in constitutional democracy: normal politics in our everyday life, most importantly, constitutional politics for higher lawmaking through sustained citizen mobilization and constitutional processes. The critical juncture of such a profound change institutionalized in the constitutional order is recognized as the constitutional moment. He published 3 books, trilogy, for theorizing this important groundbreaking theory of higher lawmaking, dualist democracy, and constitutional moment. The real substantial impacts of his work responds to current challenges facing the US and the contemporary democracies by defining higher lawmaking for legitimate constitutional change. Most importantly, he also inspires many global constitutional lawyers, including me, myself, to explore the constitutional moment of their own constitutional systems and explore higher lawmaking mechanisms to legitimate their constitutional developments. That has been really well received globally. Professor Bruce Ackerman has not stopped there for his groundbreaking theory of higher lawmaking, dualist democracy, and constitutional moment. He then developed further comparative constitutional studies across space and time. His scholarship is distinguished by its ability to transcend time and space while integrating insights from law, political science, history, and economics into a coherent intellectual framework. His comparative studies on the constitutional histories of different states have been widely acclaimed. Through careful engagement with the constitutional histories of diverse countries, he explored constitutional evolutions and articulated three main pathways for the legitimation of constitutions: revolutionary outsiders, pragmatic insiders, elitist transformations. I am sure he has a lot to say for our Taiwanese constitutional pathways. Distinguished from other constitutional lawyers, Professor Bruce Ackerman also has devoted his work to social justice to consolidate democracy. Professor Bruce Ackerman introduced the concept of stakeholder society, recognizing all citizens as stakeholders in their community with equal opportunity. He proposed that every citizen should receive a significant capital stake upon reaching adulthood. This proposal empowers the young citizens to participate in democratic politics equally and effectively, thereby strengthening the bedrock of democracy. And his idea is never just idea. So his idea has inspired similar policy initiatives in countries such as the United Kingdom, as in Child Trust Fund, and in Brazil as stakeholder grants. And these two books are the foundation of his work. And you can see in the PowerPoint slide. Last but not least, Professor Bruce Ackerman always has innovative responses to contemporary crises facing the rule of law. When the rule of law and constitutions are under threats by wars and emergencies, Professor Ackerman proposes a supermajoritarian escalator requiring progressively higher legislative approval thresholds for each successful extension of a declared emergency to ensure that the checks and balances necessary for proper return to the normal constitutional order. This very important innovation has inspired similar initiatives such as institutionalization of temporal limits and periodical review of emergency powers in France and in many other countries around the world. These three books illustrate the ideas and the foundations of his work for this innovation. As contemporary challenges to the rule of law emerge at both the national and international levels, his work demonstrates cross-generational wisdom, offering enduring guidance for strengthening the rule of law through constitutional legitimacy and popular sovereignty. As a scholar, Professor Bruce Ackerman certainly has numerous publications. And to save time, I would just list some of the selected publications here for your information. To summary our introduction to Professor Bruce Ackerman, three categorizations best represent his ideals and models to the global constitutional community. He is a thinker with grand intellectual visions. Professor Ackerman's scholarship transcends disciplinary boundaries, integrates perspectives from law, politics, history, and economics to build a visionary theoretical framework for democratic constitutional governance. Most importantly, he is also a legal scholar with innovative initiatives. His work offers critical theoretical and practical approaches to address the contemporary crisis facing the rule of law and constitutional order. For me, and for many others around the globe, working in scholarly field, in practical field, he most of all represents us as an educator with cross-generational impact. Across generations, his enduring commitment to constitutional legitimacy and popular sovereignty has continued to inspire constitutional scholars and practitioners worldwide. I think these three categorizations of Professor Bruce Ackerman's work and his role as a role model in constitutional global community best represent his work, his lifelong commitment to popular sovereignty and democratic constitutionalism, and explains so much a self-evident nature of his receiving the Tang Prize Rule of Law of this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Zhang, for the insightful introduction. And congratulations to the Tang Prize laureate in Rule of Law, Professor Ackerman. And now let's watch a video from Professor Bruce Ackerman.
It is really an honor because consider the fact that for perfectly understandable reasons, no American scholar or lawyer has been awarded this prize before. Isn't that surprising? Why is it that of all times when American democracy is most endangered, you've turned and considered me? I'm only one of many Americans who have made contributions to legal thinking. But the fact that you've chosen an American, why? When President Trump is destroying the world order that was constructed in the aftermath of the Second World War by the United States. Well, the only reason that you've singled me out, although you could have singled others out, is that many other scholars have adapted to the situation. Not by approving everything that Trump is doing, but criticizing Trump in one respect or another respect, but have a balanced view. I do not have a balanced view. American democracy has never been endangered so profoundly, and in its 250 years of history. And it is an absolute necessity for serious Democrats who disagree about countless things to stand up and say no to what is going on in the name of we the people of the United States.
Congratulations again to the Tang Prize laureate in Rule of Law. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us at the 2026 Tang Prize laureate announcement in Rule of Law. The Tang Prize award ceremony will be held on September 18th this year. We look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much.